Hello, good morning, it's John. Happy Thursday. I just started the video and then restarted because my microphone was hiding in my jacket. Hello from Patch and I, it's a cold Scotland. I wanted to share a bit about a day in the life of, and also a bit more about the broader spectrum of the work I do, because I don't always actively talk about the darker sides of the work that I choose to do. First of all, speaking of self-love and self-care, I finished work yesterday at 4 p.m. I had the whole evening off. I set up my new mixing desk, which I counted as fun because I just love doing it, and I made a little video about it, which really didn't take much effort at all. I think I got the whole mixing desk set up and the video done and edited and uploaded in an hour, so that felt like good fun to do. I'd also, the day before on Tuesday, been over at Naked Revive and did my first psychic Swedish massage. So blending psychic reading, quantum energy healing and Swedish massage together in a single service in an hour and 7 minutes. So thank you to my first client, and it was just a really beautiful, magical experience. And it's so important to celebrate the first step, right? And then onto a bit more about the full breadth of my work. So you may have noticed on my website, I have my most popular online service, which is quantum psychic healing sessions, and they're just a broad range of things, you know, from past lives, present and future lives, to meeting your spirit guides, to doing energy healing. There's just like a whole broad range of things, and the really exciting aspect of that work is that there's really no restrictions to it. Come on then, come on. What I do enjoy is also doing, there's the Hidden Witch Wound service, and in that I go primarily back to previous lives, and it's funny. It is also, like, you can do that in one of the in the most popular services, but as part of that, it's also really important to know that the more specific you are when you book, and the more specific you are when you fill out the form, the easier it is for me to focus the session on exactly that. I also enjoy having this other service, and you might see it on my website. If you browse, you'll see the negative entity removal and soul retrieval service. And let me just pick up what Patch has left behind. He does this really cool trick of digging up a hole afterwards and kicking whatever's on the ground at me. And right now he's trying to go into his own poo just as I'm about to explain a service to you. Trying not to get poo in my hands or in the camera or on the video content itself. But it's part of life, right? Just like our shadows, you can't hide it. It's part of us. It's very much there. Oh, there's the bag. That's as close as you got. Yeah, so what is the negative entity removal and soul retrieval? Well, soul retrieval is where typically, I mean, every session is so different, so unique, and done in lots of different ways. And even this week, I've done a couple of sessions in very different ways. Come back, let's go in the sunshine. It's there, I can see it. And the first aspect of soul retrieval is identifying if someone has one. Now, it might amaze you. Many of you might not know what a soul retrieval is, or even what a soul fragment is. But amazingly, the way the universe seems to work is that those that do have soul fragments seem to be aware of it. And I feel it's because you'll feel part of your consciousness, part of your soul, separated from you. And you might have had it for this lifetime. It might have happened the fragmentation might have happened in this lifetime, or at any point in this life, or any other life. And usually it's a result of some sort of traumatic experience, and then the fragment is separated by your soul and can end up in anywhere. It can end up in, I would call it hell, at any level, from levels -1 to -99. And then also the infinite void. There's other places too, really anywhere your soul decides. Sometimes I see it in past lives as well. And so I have to go to hell with my client and pick up Patch, you should walk in here if the salt's annoying your feet. I think he doesn't like walking on the salt much. Just walk in here for a minute. I know it's a bit cold, but it'll clean your feet. Here we go. I can't really avoid the salt patch. Maybe there's less on the other side. Yeah, so I have to go down there and put in a whole load of protection, and we always take an archangel with us when we go, and we take a guide each, and the 4 or 5 of us head down. Often there's lots of different ways of going, and I'm not going to go into detail because it's not it's not always safe to share all the detail, just put it that way. But know that I've done it many times. I don't even know how many times, like maybe over 100 times. I'm just not sure. So yeah, you do that, and then we find the fragments, we face it, we talk to it to understand like what was the challenges that caused the fragmentation, and then find out whether it's safe to do the integration there or take them back to the surface and do the integration. It is, is it scary work? I feel for many, yes, it would be, and I think often my clients are a bit scared, but I know that in the work, I just can't, how to describe it. You know, often people would say, don't show any fear. Like, if you have fear, it doesn't matter whether you're showing it or not. When you go to a place like hell, it's your energy speaking louder than any words or actions. So really, it's just about having the conviction and intention and being brave, and working through the fear, I guess, is a better, healing the fear, bringing love, your own self-love to your own fear. You can't totally eradicate it, but it's important to see it and address it. Then negative entity removal is, can be anything from, there's just so many different kind of manifestations of negative energy. It can be your own negative energy that you've been blocking and struggling to release into the ground. It can be as like a small negative attachment that might be like a dark kind of little cloud of energy, or I often see them as like little leeches or worms, and then larger ones of all shapes and sizes. And there's no limit to the variations of different forms that these negative entities can take, and they all have different superpowers. And so I always expect the unexpected whenever I'm dealing with them. Then there's also demonic entities, and just know that as I touch on this subject, I'll be keeping it quite brief, because one of the challenges about communicating anything about the subject is that the more I share, the more it can be give power to these entities, and because it can put you in a state of fear. So I really don't want to trigger that. And before I kind of introduce them fully, I would just say there's nothing more powerful than your self-love. And this is simply because you have the source of love in your heart. We all do. Whether we choose to engage with it or not, it's there. And I've been to the lowest levels of hell, and I've met these, it sounds like a song lyric, right? And I've met these giant, foreboding, entities, and even they, despite their best, will in the world, they would try their best to hide their light, and even in them they have these tiny little dots of light. And this is why we are ultimately more powerful than the dark side, if you like, the negative and demonic entities, is because whenever we manage to connect with our love, with our intention, and the intention, like the love within their hearts, that it begins to expand, it begins to grow. And it might not surprise you that demons hate love. So the more you bring love to that, a very high vibration love energy to a very low vibration fear, shame, or hate, that so the battle begins, and you begin to make a big difference. Come on, pets, you can walk on the grass. I know it's cold, but it'll help your feet. But yeah, I've done a couple of battles in client sessions this week, so removing demonic entities, and I teach how to do this in the Higher Self Intermediate course, and I just went through, gone through the first half of that content and practical exercises with now the second run of the Higher Self Intermediate training. And you don't need to do this work as a profession, right? I choose to, because I feel like it is very dangerous work and someone's got to do it, right? I'm not saying I'm going to do it forever, and I definitely don't think there's any glory in it, but I do know that as soon as I exclude part of the frequency spectrum from my work, it will become almost like a shadow, like a place I wouldn't go. And so even if I stopped doing a service, I would include at least the activities into the scope of other services, so that it gave me the flexibility to go there if I chose to, and because my client needed me to. I don't want to just be in a position where I'm helping clear someone's energy and then suddenly it's like, oh, there is something really dark here, so you'll just go and speak to my friend Bob or whatever. He'll help you. But yeah, there are lots of triggers. There are lots of red flags for when you're doing this work. I have to do a lot of extra clearing and grounding, and spending time being human and cultivating my self-love. I have to create a lot of space around these sessions. Even if, as a client, you don't see me particularly affected in the session itself, it has a massive effect. Just last week it took me 3 days, I think arguably 4 days, to recover from a session. And one of the things I do is I let my membership know, and then others I'm working with, that whenever I do battle, if you like, and that's because I want them to know that I am at higher risk than I was before the battle. And it's because effectively when you do this work, you attract things to attach to you, to attempt to influence you. The battle isn't solely contained within a client session. And it was funny, I was asking myself last night, how it feels after you do work like this, and I describe it as it hurts your heart and it hurts your soul, and so both need protection and both need healing. Good news is, really focusing on your self-love, and in part, like I'd already planned this, right? I already knew that when these sessions were coming up, so I'd had like different work to do. That's why I was doing my case study yesterday, which it's just a very kind of human thing to do. I was just writing lots of stuff in pencil. So that was good. And I did have a nightmare yesterday, last night, which is a really red flag. But what I would say about the nightmare was, without giving any power to the specifics, what was fascinating was there was definitely an aspect of a simulation. Now, I assumed initially that was the creation of this demonic entity, that it was kind of trapping me. And it would have you believe that, right? But as time went on, I realized that it was definitely a simulation that was testing me. And just imagine a movie, a bit like some sort of horror movie, of loads of things happening in an apartment going wrong and me unable to control them. And then when I eventually confronted this being, I did my work, and it was terrified of me, even though it was really, really powerful. And it's not to say that battle is done with, but I'm very grateful for the experience and the learning. And whilst I wouldn't say that I love the experience, I send love into that experience, because I know I was being tested, and through that test, I've grown even in the last 24 hours. So that's really important to remember whenever you're experiencing these things. And then also, just sometimes, it's like our souls just choose these experiences, and so we have to go through the journey and just keep focusing on ourselves and our self-care, and work our way through it, and ask for help when we need it. And I hope this finds you well. Sending love.